Thank you so much for choosing to watch this video and allowing me to share a little bit about me and about the journey that I have been on over the last little while that's kind of really created a mission for me. So like I said in the email, my husband pretty much ended up with mental health issues almost overnight. And how that happened was because he had a TIA. And if you're like me, I had no idea what a TIA was. It's a transient ischemic attack, which is basically like a stroke it's supposed to be with no brain damage. And so after 48 hours of symptoms happening, they're supposed to kind of go away, and then there's no other issues anymore. But for us, it actually was like a line in the sand, and pretty much everything in our lives changed. So my husband, who was fairly high up in a multi-million-dollar retail company, was working with teams and had district managers reporting to him and was in charge of operations. So very capable, very articulate guy who was always out and helping people, and literally overnight couldn't work anymore and really started suffering from some mental health issues. So first of all, the slur that he had because of the stroke-like symptoms started to turn into a stutter. It was a fairly severe stutter, but that was actually the least of the problems that we had. It was the mental health issues that really stemmed from it. And within a week or two, he started to experience severe anxiety symptoms where he actually would have 4 or 5 panic attacks a day, which was quite disconcerting for him and for me as well. And as we sort of traveled through time, these symptoms started getting worse. Depression became really an issue for him. Then he started having suicidal thoughts. And so to start to cope with these things, he started scratching and cutting. And I hope I can get through this without crying. But I cannot tell you how difficult it was to sit at the breakfast table and look over and see a cut on my husband's wrist in exactly the wrong way if you have somebody who's fighting with suicidal tendencies. And so it was really hard to stay calm in that particular situation and be able to be strong for him, because I knew if I freaked out and if I got upset about it, he was already feeling embarrassed and ashamed by these things that were going on. And he didn't understand why the person that he was, who had all of this, control and was able to handle these situations, could no longer handle it anymore. And this deteriorated to the point where he ended up in the psych ward just before Christmas, 10 months later of all this happening. Now, I will say I'm probably pretty lucky because I had done a lot of research prior to any of this happening. So I kind of knew that these symptoms that he had with the cutting and the scratching and so on were coping behaviors. So at least I had that I could work with. But the craziest thing out of all of this is through this time is that I was actually the happiest, best, and most stable me that I've ever been. And I know as Dean kind of worked through some of these issues and talked with other people, a lot of the spouses were really angry and upset and didn't know how to cope with this. And I recognized then that I was in a very different situation, and it was because of what happened to me before in my life. When my first marriage ended, my children were about 3 or 4 years old, and I hit the lowest point in my life at that point in time. I was lost. I was completely lost. I was really something for everybody else in my life, and I was nothing for me. And I hadn't taken the time to discover myself. And because I was trying to please everybody else, I just kept giving pieces and pieces away. So like for my ex-husband, it was really important to him to have financial stability. So I left a job that I loved because it was contract and moved back into retail, which I hated. And so I gave a piece of me away. And then at that company, I had to fire quite a few people, and not all of those firings I agreed with. And so I gave another piece of me away. And, my parents wanted me to act a certain way because they had certain expectations, which is really natural as a parent. And so I gave another piece away. And then I had little children who needed me to be something for them. And even though I was exhausted, I gave another piece away and then I wasn't filling myself up with anything either, because I hadn't taken the time to figure out what it was that I wanted and what was important to me and what made me the most happy. And so I ended up at a point where I was completely lost, and there was just a big hole. And I kind of liken it to like a label on an empty soup can, right? Like you could open it up, there's nothing inside, and there's this label on it, and something's supposed to be there, but nothing was. So I was a mother, and I was a manager, and I was a friend and a sister, and you name it, but it was nothing for me. And I remember actually the first time that I took a step back toward being me. And I had finally decided to go on medical leave because I'd lost 25 pounds. I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping. I was just really in a bad state. And because I was in so much pain, of course, I was just causing pain to myself. So I started, doing things like smoking again and drinking more and just not doing things that I would normally do for me because I just didn't know what to do. And I was literally at that point where I understood those people who went to the corner store for milk and never came back again. I could totally understand doing that, but I think some part of me understood that if I did that, I still had to take me with me. And so it was still going to be a problem no matter where I was. So I had to start that long haul back. And the first decision I made that was solely for me in my adult life was when I decided to take medical leave. And I remember the district manager coming in when I told her that I needed to leave, and she said, "Can you give me a couple weeks so we can get a new manager in place?" And for the very first time, I put myself first and I said, no, like I actually can't do that. And I don't know if I realized it at the time, I do now, but there was so much power in making just that one decision that was solely for me. And it started me on that road back. So that's when I started learning things about what I wanted and about my personal value and what I valued and what I could bring to this world. And I always felt lost. And maybe you know what I'm talking about. Like I felt like I had no purpose, or I knew that I was supposed to do something bigger, but I didn't know what that was and I didn't know where to start. So I really felt so lost and such a lack of purpose. But it was the journey back from that and starting to understand myself and what I found out on that really has allowed me to be this stable, calm, happy person no matter what adversity is coming my way. And certainly there's been a lot over the last couple years with what has happened in my life. And I am on a mission now, and this is a big mission, to help 1 million people to really plug into their potential, step into their power, and become the people that they most want to be, become the person that they know they have the capability to be, but they're not really sure where to start. And I don't want those people to struggle like I did through it, because if there's a way to help, if there's steps that you can take, if there's one little thing that you can learn about yourself that's going to turn everything around, then I want you to have that. And so I hope that you're going to come along this journey for me and help me out with it, because I don't have to be in front of 1 million people. If I can help you and you can help somebody else, or you can share something with them and that gets to help them, then I'm going to get to 1 million people pretty quickly by doing that. So I really want to encourage you that if any of the information that you've had so far, or if you have joined the Facebook group, if there's something there that you really like, to share that. If you go back to that email and you hit reply and you have a question for me, please send it so that I can either reply to you, or maybe I can answer it in one of the 2 Facebook groups, either Step Into Your Power or The Crazy Path to Happiness. I would love to be able to do that for you. So I really hope that you can help me with that mission. I hope that you have found some really cool things that you can use so far, and that you continue to do so in one of the Facebook groups. And I really do hope that I get to talk to you in person at some time soon. So thank you so much. I hope you do something today to take that step forward, to reach out for your potential, do something that makes you happy, and start becoming that person that you really, really want to be. I'll see you again soon.